Well, welcome back to Beskidy, my app Farming Simulator 13 created by Seba J. It's a wonderful map, and we have now completed harvest, and we had a rather disappointing discovery when we hauled all of our bales to market. We got about a whopping $1 per bale, and I was thinking something was wrong. Maybe it didn't recognize those little bales. But as it turns out, I think I now know what we can blame it on. And once again, before continuing, we'll head out of game just so I can show you what I discovered. Well, whenever you sell something at a bale destroyer trigger, it's helpful maybe to go look at the code that underlines the trigger. And I don't have any Lua code. When I say code, I mean the Lua code. There's lots of Lua codes that help the game to run that the giants use, and sometimes, of course, we can make our own Lua codes. But we always gotta fit them in with the ones the giants start with, or we can modify what they did. So when we dumped our bales into the bale destroyer trigger, there is Lua code that says what to do with it. Oh, and by the way, it's rather old. You know, there's an old game, Farming Simulator 13, but the Giants used to publish certain portions of their Lua code at http ls-mods.de, and they had some script documentation. I don't think the site exists any longer, but I think they published the documentation here for FarmSim 09, 11, 13, and 15, I believe. After which point, they started handling everything. You can see the icon up here, the Giants Developer Network. So that's kind of where you can get code for 17, 19, and 22, I believe. But back in the day, they put it here. And so in order to access it, you need to know kind of what the address is. I got the ad just by searching Giants, the Developer Network, and someone here, Stefan Geiger, actually I think he's like the CEO, he put back in the day the address. So taking the ad, we went to the Internet Archive, Web Archive, and looked it up. And it shows there's several iterations of the site. So I picked one kind of in the middle of 2013. You can see the date kind of over at the right. I didn't want one later because it would have later versions of the code. I only wanted FarmSim 13. When I've messed with 09 and 11 and 15 and 17, I have some code, you know, on my computer in XML file, or not XML, but text files on my computer that are searchable, and I can look some things up. But when it comes to 13, I don't have anything. And actually, if anybody listening to this, if you happen to have those Lua files for 13, I'd love to have them. You know, if for no other reason, to kind of complete my set of them, if you will. But anyway, I went and looked them up, what was publicly available kind of at the time for FarmSim 13. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And coming in here, of course, there was a type of trigger. You know, they got all these specializations. I think down here was a trigger. Right at the top, Bale Destroyer trigger. So that's the one that I kind of opened up here. I'm just explaining how I found it in case anybody else ever wants to go on a goose chase like this, or is interested in the underlying code and how to find some things. But anyway, back to the Bale Destroyer trigger. When we dump a bale into the trigger, it activates this code. And so it has a trigger callback. Don't worry about all this. But if on enter, that means something is entering the trigger, and it's going to look to see if it is a bale. So if it hits this other actor ID, if that means it's not equal to 0, meaning it is something, then it looks up the object, gets a node, and if it's not equal to nothing, meaning we have a bona fide object, it tests to see if it is a, that's kind of a cool little command, object is a bale. And if you have a bale, it goes, whoopee, okay, so it's a bale destroyer, we have what we want, and we're gonna sell it. It plays a sample, that means it plays a sound. We always hear the cash register sound go. This is kind of the code that does that. And then on the server, it says, okay, we need to give the player some money. So it looks up the difficulty multiplier. We're playing Beskidy on hard. So it's this is going to be a value of 1, you know, when it comes out. Then it does this little bit here. It looks up the value of the object, the bale. And then, of course, once it has the value, it multiplies it by the difficulty multiplier, which is 1. And then it adds to our money. And as we were seeing in the last episode, is only a tiny amount of money that it's adding. And I felt like it should be adding quite a bit more. At least it seemed like it should, based on what I recall about the game. But the problem I understand it comes in this little bit right here. Well, so what does it mean, getting the value of the bale? So in order to do that, I said, well, what kind of an object is it? Of course, it is a bale. So we went back to here. I went up to objects to see what they had available. Sure enough, the top one is a bale. So I open that one over here, and I look for the function that says get value. So here's what it does. It starts with a price of 0, but then it looks up what the fill type is on the particular bale. You may remember the previous episode when we add the bale up, that there was a line inside the bale attributes that said what kind of a fill type it was. Now there's huge game tables kind of going in the background that has all these values. So it should be looking up, you know, what the table, if you will, desk, and then looking up the price per liter of the bale. And if it doesn't exist, you know, of course, the price per liter is going to be 0 coming through. But we did get something. It just was about $1 a bale, and it wasn't nearly as much as, you know, what we were hoping for. So then what is the value? Well, it says the fill level, and remember these bales have a fill level of 500 liters apiece, times the price per liter, which was just looked up by the code, and then it looks up the bale value scale. Now, the value scale is always a 1. I mean, we could check the code up here, but I'm pretty sure it's always 1, unless you put something in the attributes of the bale to give it a different number. So if you want a bale, you know, maybe for testing purposes, and you give it a value scale of 100, well, it's going to multiply the price in here by 100, you know, so it pops out. Or whatever value you want to give it. You know, maybe there's a special bale, you know, that's worth more than the others. But anyway, that's in here too. Otherwise, the value's 1. I didn't see any. There wasn't any bale value scale in the bale attributes in the i3D file that we looked at in the editor. So I'm pretty sure this is 1. So fill level 500 liters times 1 times whatever the price is. So then I said, well, then how do I figure out what the price is? You know, I went in game, and we'll just do that here real quick. You know, it's like, okay, so I opened the PDA thing, and I say, where is my prices? These are all prices of the commodities, wheat, barley, so forth and so on. You know, you can scroll through all 11 pages, but look as much as you will, you aren't going to see anything in here that tells you what what the price of straw is, or the price of grass, or any of those things. There's nothing in the finance page. There's nothing in the stats page. I looked all through here. There is nothing. And I think it's just one of those variables in the game. Maybe it isn't even a variable. It's probably a constant somewhere. I don't know if the Giants has it fluctuate. But for whatever reason, they just don't tell you what it is. So I would have to literally print a game table page to discover what it is for the fill type, barley windrow, wheat windrow, that's the straw, or grass, to see what those are valued. And I could do that. I often ought to do it. But then I got to thinking, well, what else is in here that could be impacting, the price of bales and the prices of things? And then I remembered we have the more realistic mod in the mods folder. And here is the real culprit. This is the first time I've ever really used the more realistic mod, and I tended to think of the more realistic mod as being something that just changed the driving experience in the game, or those kinds of things. Meaning, if you had a heavy load to pull and you didn't have enough horsepower, then there was no way you could actually pull whatever you're trying to pull. Well, there are other impacts too. And so when you open the more realistic mod, or I just hop into the zip file here, it has all these overrides. So you can see it's overriding combine, overriding tractor, overriding bale. That caught my eye. So I opened it up and said, well, what is it overriding? Well, we come in here, there's a few things that it's doing, but one of the things it's overriding is the get value. So, that's what we just looked at here a little bit ago in the bale get value. So what that's telling me is instead of using this code, we are using this code over here. This is storing the old get value. So if the realistic mod isn't installed that says to use the old code, well, it's bypassing that. So it starts similar to what we saw before. Price is 0. And if it finds something, or if it locates the fill type, then it's going to look in its own data, in its own realistic utils in this case, to see if it has better data, according to the mod author of the realistic mod, better data than what the Giants have, more realistic data. So if it finds it, if found, then the price per liter is the real price per liter. If it doesn't find it, meaning it's a commodity or something that doesn't exist in the more realistic mod, then it will use what's in the game tables. So I look at this, well, it must have found something, because I should be getting a whole lot more for my bales than what I actually received. So it's pointing us to realistic utils, and it's getting the information for the real price per liter from this particular function, get fill type infos v2. Alright, so we open realistic utils, and up here is get fill type infos v2. And we just look down through here, and what I do appreciate about how the mod author set this up is he made it readable. So you could, in reality, in the game, the fill type has a number. It's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Well, none of us know maybe necessarily what a particular number is, but there also is a name tag, so he's put the tag in here so we can understand what particular item is being modified. Well, so I look through this function filled with else ifs, and here's one for wheat windrow, barley windrow, and here's also grass and dry grass. So what we see here, like for wheat windrow, and remember we just harvested wheat and barley, so it's a bunch of straw, that's all we had. It's saying the density and the price per kilogram is 0.04 and 0.04. Now barley, it's a little less for the density, a little bit more on the price. And the number that they have in here is actually being multiplied by a balancing factor. So realistic global listener. Well, what in the world is that? So I looked up another file in the realistic mod. You know, these are all in here. These are all these Lua files within the mod that I'm looking up. So I found this one over here, and here's the realistic global listener bale price balancing factor 1.5. Alright, so coming in here, you have a 0.04 price times 1.5. Okay, and then you have a density. This is price per kilogram, so we know it isn't in liters. Well, as it turns out, down here at the bottom, when it returns the data, you see over here it's grabbing data, getting the real price per liter. So this function is kicking data into these variables. That's kind of how this is working. So down here it says return, there's the found, here's the price per liter. Well, what's the price per liter? We take density times the price per kilogram. So up here, I know I'm probably not making much sense, but let me just pull up a calculator so we can kind of follow this. Drag this over here. So remember, the balancing factor is 1.5. So let's just take 1.5. And then we have to multiply it by 0.04. That's this 0.04 here. So times 0.04. Okay, that's 0.06. Now the density times the price per kilogram, which we saw below, is the price per liter. So now we take the 0.06 times the 0.04. So we'll go times 0.04. This is going from bad to worse. So 0.0024 is the price per liter that we're getting. It's abysmal. Now you take this, and remember earlier we commented the bales are 500 liters apiece. So we'll take this times 500, and here's the price that we get, a whopping $1.20 per bale. Now I know in game I commented it appeared we were getting just $1 per bale. I was shooting from the hip. Well, now we have proof we were actually getting a little bit more than $1 per bale. But I mean, this is terrible. This is awful. I was hoping I could, maybe bale a bunch of grass kind of around the place, and earn some money. But it's gonna be that is gonna be a hard thing to do. So if we turn or make hay, for example, let's try this again. So this is by the windrow price balancing. So we'll just try this again. 1.5 times. Let's see, this is 0.085, 0.1275, we'll take the at times 0.05, so 0.06375, that's better than it was for straw, but when we multiply the app by 500 liters per bale, we're only going to get a little over $3 a bale, versus $1.20. So if we haul in a load of 190 bales, and it's going to take a while to get all those bales, we'll just multiply this by 190 for a full load, we're going to get a whopping $606. So I know there's a lot of grassy areas on the map. I guess a question I need to ask myself is, while playing this, do I really want to use the more realistic mod, or do I want to make it a little bit easier on myself and take it out so I can earn a little bit more money, when I sell bales and that kind of thing. But anyway, that was kind of an interesting little exercise to see what was causing such the puny price. And as it turns out, there's no mistake. It is just a mod. It is deliberate. It is some overrides of the game by the more realistic mod. And I got no problem at all with more realistic mod. I remember reading about it kind of on the FS UK forum, and it's pretty cool what he was trying to do with all that, but it's definitely going to make a tougher game. So now that we managed to figure all that out, with the time remaining, I was going to hop in our tractor here and see about starting to do some cultivation. And you know, let me just look in here. We got this cedar, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It cost a whopping $1, speaking of more realistic. So I'm thankful to have kind of a tractor to do that. I don't want to abuse it. I should be paying these kinds of prices here. But there's no data on this eater, so I have no idea how many horsepower it has. Maybe I could look up the mod and see what data it has in the XML. So I don't know kind of what its power rating is. I guess short of just taking it out to the field with a cultivator and seeing kind of what happens. So let me look at the others. I got this other tractor, this Buer. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's telling me it has 134 horsepower. So I don't know if this is a more powerful tractor than the other, but I may have to use it if this one here doesn't pan out. I'm gonna crank it up. Let it rev up a bit. And we're gonna head on out to the field. It at least is a Polish tractor, or something they would use in Poland, so I'm happy to try to use it in game here. Looking out into the neighbor's hop field. Whoop! Looking out for the gate. And out we go. Oh, I need to come in here and translate these because I don't know what they mean. I did discover that the number or the enter key on the number keypad is to start the motor. So yeah, I need to figure out kind of what the rest of them are in order to effectively operate this, I think. So trying to think if they have multi-angle terrain loaded. You know, oh, I could just use GPS. Why don't I do that and set that down? Whoa, what's that? Oh, there we go. I see. That's the blinkers for the indicator lights. All right. So let me get this. Is that the offset? How do I reduce? No, that isn't it. Somewhere in here, work with. Here we go. Oh, nope, that's offset. Maybe. Nope, I don't want to do that either. Here it is. How do I just reduce? There, it's reducing a little bit. Yeah, I want just a tad of overlap. And so I don't need my blinker on. Alright, let's see what this guy does. Alright, well, he doesn't seem to be protesting the load too badly. So we must have a tractor that's adequately powered. Now, I didn't quite get as straight as I would like, so let me take care of the top of the headlamp here. And I do wonder, you know, the more realistic mod, what I remember about some of it is that it was kind of a community effort in many regards to get information plugged into it, so that when you had a particular tractor or whatever, that it knew kind of how to make the calculations or whatever in the game, you know, that it needed to make. So I don't know if they have this particular seeder in there. That's kind of what I mean. Let me see. That looks a little bit straighter, and maybe I can go a little more generously on the work width. There we go. Oh, too fast. See, in some of these older games, and I don't remember if 13 is like this, when you went too fast, what they would do is detach the implement from the tractor, you know, which of course was kind of annoying. But that's what they did to try to teach you to go the proper speed. Now, once we get to Farm Sim 15, all they did is, rather than detaching your implement, is they just would regulate how fast you were able to pull it. There we go. Good old GPS. Get rid of the... just want to build in a big enough space to kind of turn around. Drag that up, and now we are headed the next direction. So we try to get this set up to head off down here. We'll change. Whoops. That's going kind of at an angle. Does that look straight? I think that looks pretty straight. So, except it's going the wrong way. Yep, that looks pretty straight. I don't think it is tilling out the foliage by the side of the field, so just going to be taking care of what's in field. And you know, I'm looking at what I'm tilling, and I'm realizing I have another mod installed that requires the chopped straw mod. And what it is it's called stubble cultivate. So actually, in some of the remaining time here, let me just hop out. I'm going to go look that up real quick, because there's kind of a cool effect that then requires the player to do just a little bit more work, if you wish to. CZ, here we go, stubble cultivator. Now, I remember when this guy was building the mod, it was a pretty cool idea, but I don't remember the commands to get it to go. Okay, left control key 8, on off. Alright, so we're going to give that a try, and I'll show you the effect. It's kind of cool. Although we'll see, with the straw removed, I don't know if it'll work. So left control 8. Alright, I just did it. We'll see if that makes any difference at all. There we go. Isn't that cool? See, what this is assuming is that if you are cultivating stubble after the harvest is done, one pass over isn't going to always eliminate all of the foliage. So what this does is it puts down chopped straw texture, and it has the cultivated texture kind of underneath. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. And what it will force me to do is, if I really want to have a clean dig, if you will. Oh, it's doing that up there too. Somehow it can determine that I'm in a former wheat field. I think it was wheat over here, right? But I think then if you come in over the top of this and you cultivate it a second time, it will then fully incorporate all of the stubble into the dirt. So let me just test that here. We'll go back on the... there's the bell. We'll see if this works. Or we'll see if I need to turn it off, actually. Just get it down. Boom. Oh, looks like I need to turn it off. Okay, so I need to remember, just like I did just there. I'll give that a little thought and see if it's something... I know in some of my other saves, I've definitely used this mod. If for no other reason than it gives me one more thing to do in the field. And maybe for folks who this isn't their favorite thing to do, you know, in terms of just cultivating, and they say I would prefer to do as little as possible. Maybe this isn't your cup of tea, but it does add some additional things to do. So just thought I would show it here. And our time is up, so let me get this turned around. Oh, okay, that goes right over the fence. Get back in line here. Oh boy. Sometimes it's painful getting this thing to move. Alright, we're off to the races. Thank you so much for stopping by to take a little look at Beskidy. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.